What you get is what you got. 'Cause when they own the information, oh, they can bend it all they want. That's why we're waiting, waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change. It's not that we don't care, we just know that the fight ain't fair. So we keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change.
Here, but who recognized the song that was playing when they came in? Everybody, cool. What are your thoughts on the song? What's the message behind it, do you think? Anyone? That guy right there. He has something to say.
As it's kind of saying that you can't just wait around for everything to change. You have to be part of the change yourself.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have anything? No, bro. Anyone? No, that's cool. So I took a bit of a different message behind it. I kind of saw it as, we're just waiting. We're waiting on the world to change, and they say we stand for nothing. They say we never could, but we keep waiting. And I feel like it's a fairly passive message, and everyone interprets songs differently, but that's kind of the message that I took from it. And so now I would like to play just one more song for you, and we're going to do the same thing.
Gonna make a change for what's in my life. Gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up the collarbone, my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street without enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their need? I saw us disregard my broken bottle top. Everyone is slow. They follow each other all knowing and know. 'Cause they got nowhere to go. Nothing I know, I got to know. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
So, first I have to go, ow! So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you feel like there's a difference between the two songs? Who recognized it, first of all? Everybody? Everybody? Okay. What are the thoughts? Can I just get some thoughts? I'm going to call on you. You already proved that I do it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think he realized that there is the end of the world and there are people out there starving, and that he wants, or looking at himself in the mirror, he wants to make a change.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so, I mean, that's the same thing I got from it, is, you want to make a change, you see kids without enough to eat and all that stuff. And, if there's going to be a change in the world, it's going to start with me. And I have to look at myself in the mirror and make that change within myself before I can make it in other people or make it in the world. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of letting you know what's on the next slide, but I'm actually here tonight to tell you that Michael Jackson is a better musician than John Mayer. That's the whole point of my presentation. Thanks for coming. But on a more serious note, I am here to talk about who I am and how I started, and why I do what I do, and some of the 3 key concepts that I kind of take away and use to motivate myself is, life happens. Life happens no matter if you're living it or not, and but it doesn't mean that you can't take a little time and do what you want to do while life is happening. And if life knocks you off course, let it, because if you're off track, sometimes being uncomfortable is how you learn more about yourself and how it pushes you to go on and do better things. So that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. So I was actually born and raised in South Dakota, and Yankton, 20 minutes away. I'm sure you all know where it is. I graduated from Yankton High School in 2010. Did my freshman year here at USD, and then after that I transferred to the University of Minnesota, where I started studying psychology and doing research in social psychology and educational psychology, which is what I'm still doing, and we'll get to that later. And I became the president and founder of Storytime, the organization you've been hearing about on the schedule and through Golden Key. And so I'm going to have 3 quotes for you tonight, and they're quotes that I came up with myself, and they're things that I use to motivate myself. And this first quote is pass me your pain, even if just for a second. I'll do anything just to let you breathe. I'll do anything to see that smile that's been gone for too long of a while. And I feel that that's the way I have always lived my life, at least when I look at myself. I try to instill it within myself. But also this quote, I think about it on a daily basis and realize that even if I fall off track, this is the ideal that I'm going to try to hold myself to. Because at the end of the day, we all need to work for something, and this is what I want to work at for myself. And as a result, I came up with, I call them Aaron's 5 rules of living. But I mean, they're pretty basic, and it's just the way I like to live my life. The first is understanding, and then after you have that understanding, you need to justify your understanding, and then identify what you're doing, and you need to weigh the options, and then you have to come up to a decision yourself and realize what you're going to do. And so I'm going to specifically apply this to my life, and I'm going to, what I came up with is, I understand, this is probably the psychology person in me coming out, but when I try to understand the world around me, I realize that we're human. And at the end of the day, we are animals. We don't like to think of ourselves as animals, but we really are. And we're really driven by what makes us comfortable and what makes us happy. And, I justify this by, we're not stupid. We're selfish, but we're not stupid. And I'm gonna explain this to you in an example that I think we can all relate to. So let's say you're driving down Cherry Street and you're leaving Hy-Vee, and someone cuts out in front of you and puts your life in danger. What's your reaction to that? What's most people's reaction? Let's keep it clean. Does anyone have something?
Is there a clean response?
I guess not. the word that I'm going to use is idiot. Someone cuts you off, you call them an idiot, right? And so, that's completely justified, because, if we're just looking to be comfortable and happy, if someone cuts us off and puts our life in danger, that doesn't make us comfortable or happy. And it's not that we're just looking out for ourselves and thinking, what's best for me, and me getting in an accident isn't the best for me. But let's flip the side of the coin a little bit and take the perspective of the person that cut you off. Let's say hypothetically that this person is leaving Hy-Vee and they just found out that their wife is rushing to the hospital because the baby's on the way. And so he's not paying attention to the road. He's just doing what's best for him. He should be watching the road because you don't want to get in an accident on the way. But I'm going to argue that he's not stupid. He knows that getting in an accident is bad, but he's being selfish because he knows deep down that he is not going to live a very happy or comfortable life if he misses the birth of his child. His wife is not going to let him live that down. So I'm going to say he's not being stupid, he's just being selfish. And so I realize this in myself when I identify it, and I realize that, we live our day-to-day lives and we're busy. We don't necessarily take the time to realize what's best for others or what's best for the people around us. We simply just try to do what's best for us and try to get through our day. I identified this in myself and realized that I act in the same way. And I really want to take the time to, live my life as close to the first quote that I showed you. I want to try to make a change and try to have the other people around me, be as happy as I possibly am. So at this point, I weighed my options and I realized I had three options. I could either ignore what I discovered, I could recognize it and push to the back of my mind and play what if with myself 20 years down the road, or I could push myself with all my heart to become what I want. And I decided that I was going to push myself. So those are Aaron's 5 rules of living. And so with this, I realized that as I plunge into the dark abyss of tomorrow, I look around and find certainty in the fact that there exists no certainty. I shall not be afraid of the unknown, but rather blissful that I have something to work for. And this thought occurred to me because I don't know exactly what lies ahead of me. I know that I wanted to start something that mattered. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know where I was going to start. But the simple fact is I was going to try, because at the end of the day, we all need to pursue something. We all need a purpose. And I decided that my purpose was story time. And so I created Storytime in January of 2013. I was incorporated with the state of Minnesota to become a nonprofit in March 7th, 2013. And I actually took my first trip to Malawi in August of 2013. And the mission statement of Storytime is researching and applying diversified solutions to educational adversity in Southeastern Africa. Now, there's a different mission statement I tell people, but that's the one that I hold dearest to my heart. And I'll explain that in a little bit. So how I started was, I moved to Minneapolis my sophomore year of college, like I told you. And I began to talk to my roommate who was from Malawi. And the one quote that he told me that was very meaningful for me was, he told me that if you want to do something nice for someone in my country, buy them a bike. And for me to hear that and be, going to school, researching education, ways to improve education, and realizing that something as simple as a bike could completely change someone's life, really kind of took me back, and I realized that I need to do something. And right after that, I read a book by the founder of Tom's, the shoe company that I'm sure everyone in the room has heard about or knows about in some capacity. And so I decided that I was going to try to start a one-for-one bike distribution business, where I was going to try to get bikes as a nonprofit and fix them up and sell them and be able to make enough money to go to Malawi and buy students' bikes. After talking to my roommate more, though, I began to realize that I needed to take a trip there because, I realized I needed to have that hands-on connection with the community that I was, supporting, because you can't just throw money at something and expect it to get better. seen that done for many years and it hasn't worked. And so I decided to, take it upon myself and go to Malawi and see if the bike distribution thing would work. And I began to realize while I was there that the local economy was very, it fluctuated a lot. And it was very hard to know what the cost of a bike would be in 6 months. Because from the time that I got the information to the time that I was going to go buy the bikes, it doubled. So it went from $40 to $80. And then I realized if I was buying a bike for someone that was at school, there would be kids that wouldn't be going to school. So it was either I buy a $40 to $80 bike for one student that was already going to school, or I could sponsor 4 to 8 kids in their education fees that they have to pay, and have 4 to 8 kids going to school instead of one with a bike. So after my first trip, I decided to come back and start the nonprofit Storytime. And I had to come up with a mission statement. I had to come up with a purpose of what I was going to do and what projects I was going to start, and everything that goes into starting a nonprofit. Which goes back to my second quote of, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have a passion, and that passion has driven me to this point. And I'll get to it in a couple slides and telling you where I'm at today. But it takes passion if you want to do it. And so I found it really interesting because after hammering out my mission statement and getting my purpose and figuring out what I was going to do, I came up with the name Storytime. And I asked, I've been asking people, what do you think the name means? And people have a different answer for me every time. The reason I actually started it is because I realized that life is your story, and this is my story, and it's time for me to act. I found what I want to do, I'm going to go do it. My friend Zakani, my colleague that I'm working with in Malawi, the roommate, he said that it was because him and I shared a bunch of stories. He told me what was going on, he told me how it should be fixed, and that was his take. And other people said you're changing people's lives, and that's the story. And it's time for that to happen. And the beautiful thing is it's all of it. All of those things. If you can come up with something and it has multiple meanings and each meaning is just as powerful, I feel like you're doing something right. And that leads us to where we're at today. We have 3 different donation categories. And so the first one is student fees, what I was telling you about a little bit. And then small projects, so that's getting notebooks and pencils and school supplies and pads for the girls, so they can go to school the week out of the month that they would otherwise have to miss. And then large projects that are dorms and labs and infrastructure sort of things. So a little bit more detail on that. So there's 3 trimesters that they have to pay for, and standardized test fees that they have to pay at the end of what would be sophomore and senior year here. And so if these things aren't paid for, then kids either have to drop out of school, or they get kicked out of school, or they have to work. And they call it piecework, where you go out to the village and you basically try to get work from your neighbor and get paid. But the economy of Malawi right now is not in a good place, and so most people aren't looking for piecework, which actually leads girls especially into prostitution. And so I'm going to explain what that means a little bit. Does anyone have a guess at how much one trimester would be for a student?
$150.
$150, I heard? For a trimester? Okay. Anyone else? I need one more guess.
$80.
$80? For a trimester, it costs the exact same as a supersized Big Mac meal. which is $7, roughly. $7, $8. Obviously, the local economy fluctuates, so it could go anywhere from $7 to $10. But for a trimester, it's the cost of a Big Mac. So the small projects are things that I was telling you, like school supplies and pads and books, and it's the same thing as the school fees. If they don't have a notebook, then they get kicked out of school until they have a notebook, which leads them again to prostitution or piecework or whatever they can find to get money to go, which to me is huge. I mean, for someone that's coming in and donating these things, you want to know that what you're doing is going to have a positive impact and that they actually want what you're providing. And I'm not going to ask you this because you already know. The price of a notebook is $1. So I'm saying that if someone gets kicked out of school for not having a notebook, they're selling their bodies to get $1 to get a notebook. And that didn't sit well with me. And I don't imagine that it sits well with most people. And I forgot to mention this, but I'm working with a high school currently. So these are people that are not much older, or not much younger than us. And so we're going on to the large projects. These are things that I haven't started yet, but these are my goals that I've set for myself. Large projects are things like dorms and science labs and food projects and computers and infrastructure maintenance. And without these, some students have to walk 10 miles to get to school. So if you walk 10 miles to get to school, then you get to school, you're tired, you're hungry. There's no cots at school. There's no food program at the school. So they get there, they're hungry. They sit there and they learn, and then it's 10 miles home. They get home. Sometimes they have to work on the farm, and that leaves limited time for studying. That leaves limited time for getting food. And then something that also didn't sit well with me is they don't have science labs. Currently they have a closet that has chemicals in it. That's their chemistry lab. And that's one of the things that I always took away from high school personally is being able to go into physical science and be able to do experiments and see how things work and how the natural world around us is actually studied, and they don't get to do that. And so, I'm going to ask, just to put this into perspective like I had before, what do you think like a dorm would be equated to here? The cost of a dorm. And just throw a number out there. Guy standing up in the back with a red hat, what do you think?
$20,000.
10,000.
You're actually not that far off. So I did some research online, and I actually typed in what is $15,000 or $20,000 into Google. First two things that popped up was a used 2009 Ford Focus, and the other thing was a wedding. And I got to thinking, I'm like, well, how much does a wedding actually cost? I don't know. And I actually found out that, according to CNN.com, however much credit you want to give them, the average cost of a wedding is $24,000. Which, I don't know if that's true, but that's what CNN said. And yeah, you could go to the dorm and allow me for that. Which some people might be getting married, so don't mean to offend you. So, you go into these things and you try to make a difference, and you try to, you feel you have a good plan, and the community rallies around you, and they're really happy to have you, and then you have setbacks. And the thing with Malawi is some of the setbacks are a lot of corruption and people taking money that they're not supposed to have, and people storing money in their cars, the panels of their cars, which this news story actually talks about if you read through it. So the news story is that the president of Malawi dissolved her cabinet because of corruption. And the way I actually found out about this was someone posted it on my Facebook wall, and the caption that she put was, think about all those potential school fees that those people stole. Because the money goes into the government, and who knows where they're getting it from, but the corruption makes them have it, and lets them have it. And my very first reaction to this was, you can't take it out on the students. Just because the government is corrupt doesn't mean you should pull the aid. Because, you know, if the students are already suffering, you know, we've talked about it. It was the slides before. And there needs to be pressure on the government to, you know, outside pressure from, you know, whoever. But me personally, I can't stop because I've been there. I've seen the kids. I know how hard they're working. I know how much they want education. And, you know, just because the government's corrupt doesn't mean you take it out on the kids. And I'm there for them. And I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. And so I'm going to break down the mission statement a little bit for you to explain what I do. So, you know, researching, I go into the communities, I talk to the students, I talk to the teachers, I talk to the principals, and, you know, I find out what's needed, and I try to find ways to fill those gaps, and then applying, you know, whatever information I find out, I try to apply it, try to fill those gaps. Diversified solutions is, you know, there's not a one way to fix anything or everything. There's multiple ways to fix something. And so to be able to apply what you found and find a way to change it and be able to tailor what you're doing to that effort is key. And education adversity, we already talked about that. You get a little picture of what the adversity actually is. And we just try to find ways to reverse them. So the research that goes into it, my colleague that I was telling you about, he's actually going to the U of M to get a PhD in community mobilization and education reform. So he goes into the community and actually, you know, takes empirical research to find out what the conditions are and ways to change them. And then he gives that information to me and says, Aaron, go for it. See what you can find out, try to raise some money, and let's see what we can do. And this letter was from our first trip, my first trip that I had, and it's from the teacher that is currently documenting the pad distribution for the girls. And you know, she was saying that the girls are more than happy to come in and talk to her and tell her how everything's going, and we're trying to monitor attendance, because if attendance goes up as a result of what we're doing, then, you know, that's what we want to see. And at the end of the letter, I know it's hard to read up there, but at the end of the letter, she says that it's working and the attendance is going up. So, I mean, this was 1 month, and we don't really know yet if it's actually working. But this year, I actually went back in August, and we were able to provide more pads for the next 6 months, and so we're going to monitor that and see where it goes. And I told you I was going to school for social psychology and educational research, and so I just submitted research to the U of M that is testing to see what factors allow people to donate to certain organizations and why they donate to certain organizations. And so basically, if it's submitted, then the U of M is going to be paying me to do research for story time, which is what we need. And so with this, my third quote is, I'm a product of my environment. I can only report what I see through what I know. However, it is necessary for all perspectives to come together in order to gain a clear and true, to get a clear vision of the true and observable world around us. And, you know, that's saying that if you want to become a part of the story, then let's do it. And, you know, ways to do that is hold on to your Apple ticket. I mean, you have a business card. Contact me. Shoot me an email. Like us on Facebook. Kind of see where we're going, where we're at. If you want to donate, there's a link to a GoFundMe right now that we're raising money to send for pads and notebooks and things like that. And also keep in touch with Katie and Golden Key, because they're gonna, you know, if we're not working together, they know how to contact me. And also keep your eye out for a website, because we have a website that we're currently working on, and we'll get that posted to the Facebook page. And you know, you should be able to monitor better than the Facebook page of what we're doing and where we're headed. So the upcoming events that we have for ourselves is for the next 8 months, we're going to try to raise some money to go build a dorm and a science lab. And we have construction scheduled for June 2014. So I'm giving myself 10 months. Won't be a problem. Should be able to get there. And also we're sponsoring about 10% of the school's population, so about 28 kids. And we're going to be doing that in August while I'm there. And then just kind of evaluating the projects that we have and seeing what the future holds for us. And so just kind of tied up a little bit that, you know, you can apply these things to your life. Even if you don't want to come, you know, join the story and become a part of Storytime, or, you know, even follow us and see what we're doing. I feel like the things that I talked about today, you can, you know, apply to your life, and just know that no matter what you want, push for it, and you'll start to see a change in the world. And just to conclude, I want to make it perfectly clear that Michael Jackson truly is a better musician than Johnny. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Keith, Dr. Green. Any questions?
How many times have you been there?
Twice.
Twice. And when you're going back in June then?
June, yes. Yep. The first time we went, like I said, I was trying to just see how the bike business would work. And then once we kind of found out what we actually should be doing, then I kind of was able to push for really the vision of Storytime and be able to collect more funds to sponsor 21 students and be able to get the pads for 6 months. And so that was the second time I was there. So those programs are currently working, and my colleague is currently monitoring them and talking to the students and getting into the community to make sure we're having the impact we need. And then in June, we're hoping to start the dorm lab. Yeah.
Could you explain how you go about building the dorms in the lab?
Yes. So currently, the community is working at getting me a proposal. So they're proposing how many students they want to house at one time, and the details of what they want it to look like and how they're going to construct it, what's the best cost to have these things made for. And so they're going to get that to me, and we actually met with them last time I was there, and they're getting those things to me. And what they came up with was the community would donate the labor for the bricklaying, and they would donate the bricks and the sand. So basically the outside structure, I'm sure you saw the pictures when you were coming in, but the outside structure is brick, and then we have to hire out to get a contractor to get cement, so the cement floor inside, and then the inside walls are cement to reinforce the brick. And then the roof is basically a wooden beam that goes across some of the metal. And Malawi is actually a landlocked country, so anytime they get supplies in, they, it has to go through like Tanzania, and they have to pay have to pay taxes on it. So that's probably the thing that's going to cost the most. And so it's going to be the community building the frame and then having a contractor come in and lay the rest on top. Does that answer your question? Okay.
How many girls are you sponsoring for just the PADS program?
The pads, it's about 170.
And that's gonna save them, or that's gonna help them for 6 months, this last shipment that you
Yep.
guys noted?
Yep, and I'll explain that a little more actually. So the girls currently use strips of cloth, and which they wash in a stream. And when they wash it in a stream, there's bacteria and stuff that gets on the cloth, and so it could be a week that they're out just from a normal cycle, or it could be longer that they're out because they got an infection from the bad water they used to wash the cloth. And so, I mean, that's a scary thought within itself, but at the same time, if we can get those supplies to them, then it saves them time from having to clean it. Also, hopefully prevents any infection. So. Any other questions?
How many girls would live in the dorm? Did you say that yet?
There's currently 265 students at the school, and so we're projecting to build the dorms to be able to house 300 students, and we're thinking about separating into 2 dorms. So it'll be a male dorm and a female dorm, because you can't put that many hormonal teenagers in one place and not expect something bad to happen. So we're currently working on finding community leaders to come in and be kind of like the night watch and make sure everyone's safe. And so basically, it's going to be about 150. If we build 2 dorms, it'll be 150 rooms per block.
So is this something that is in the middle of the town?
It's outside. It's outside the town. It's the way it's set up, or the way Malawi is. There's only a few major cities, and then the rest is kind of village. And then you'll pass through like a market area, and so they'll call them trading stations. So it's close by a trading station, which is basically some huts along the side of the road where you can buy your sun-dried goat or corn or things that you may need. So it's about a mile away from the trading center, but it's far away from any city or any town. But it is inside one of the villages, so there's homes around it.
How big is the village? For
That
example, it would
varies.
be here.
That varies. Because they have it separated into clans. So basically, if you look out over the landscape and you see a large group, they call that a clan. And then a separate village, it's broken up into villages. And so there might be 100 homes in a village, and there'll be a village leader. So that village leader is responsible for the families in about 100 homes or less, 20 to 100, I would say. But a clan might include 1,000 homes.
So are you building the dorms since the school is so set apart from these villages, is that so that students can stay there instead of having to travel that long distance every day? So then how are they, would it be like college where they go to college and they're staying there for like a school year, a certain amount of time, and then there's a time where they go home, or
Yep.
how is that set up?
Yep, it would be pretty much exactly like what we see as college. But one of the cultural differences is that they don't see boarding school as like a scary thing. They don't see it as I want to go to public school. I want to be with my friends. Boarding school is actually very common because they know that these issues exist. So when NGOs come in, their focuses are to build a dorm, and so boarding schools are not uncommon at all. it would be a lot like, BC College. We would stay there and go home at a certain point.
How would they be fed?
We're currently looking into that, and we're thinking about starting a food program. There's a couple really interesting things that I want to look into. Is one of the things that people really want and the community really wants is a school garden. So that would include, a natural resource for the students to learn with. They'd be able to, they take agriculture classes, so they would be able to sit down and see what the plants look like and be able to interact and get a hands-on learning environment with that. Any extras they could sell to make money for the school, and then they would be able to feed themselves. The primary school next door, so it would be the elementary/middle school next door to the high school that I'm working at, is they have a porridge program. So not too far away is a corn storage place. So they just go get some corn and then mill it and then turn it into porridge. So the students get porridge once a day. But a lot more emphasis is put on the primary education than the secondary education, because they want to get kids education while they're young. And secondary education is something that, or like high school is something that they want kids to go to, but only the smart kids get to go. So we might start a porridge program, or there's nonprofits that have things that are really interesting. One of them's called Lumpy Nut. Basically what it is, a lumpy nut, yes. It's a bar. It's basically a peanut butter bar that they have whey proteins in it too, and calcium and different minerals. And I would like to buy one and see what it tastes like before I distribute it to 300 kids, because I don't assume that it would taste very good. But it's a lot better than porridge, because you get your proteins and you get your minerals and your vitamins and some calcium and more nutrition than porridge would give you. So there's a lot of different things we're looking at, but we haven't really decided on what we're going to go with yet. Maybe a combination.
How is the money going to be raised for the dorm? Is the county helping? Are people in Malawi helping to fund that?
No, they wouldn't be able to. So I'm actually working at submitting my 501c3 application, which is to become a tax-exempt nonprofit in the U.S. And so with this, I'll be able to go get corporate sponsorships. One of the biggest in Minneapolis is Target, and Target is notorious for working with nonprofits and getting them school supplies and stuff and things like that. But one of the major things is I'm going to start applying for grants primarily, because with 501c3 status, being able to get a federal grant is a lot more likely. So that's what I'm currently looking at.
And Aaron, could you talk about sponsorship for you can have your own child that you sponsor?
Yeah, so we match, people that want to sponsor a student are matched up with a student. And so if you go to the Facebook page, you'll see that we just sent them out from last time I was there. And what you get is a picture, and then in a couple months, we'll be sending you a bio. And so you get to know your student a little bit and get to know what they do. And some students make pastries that they sell for a penny to try to make some money. So you kind of get to know your student that way. And something I will mention though is people were telling me that places like, or organizations like UNICEF, they come in and they try to, they're trying to meet a quota, is what they were telling me there. So they might not even research, who needs the help, but they'll come in and pick out 10 students and say, okay, we met our 10 students in this district, so we'll sponsor them and we'll, give them shoes, give them a notebook, and then, we'll check back in 6 months. But the thing with, what I'm doing is my friend goes in and actually, makes the bios and actually, sends the bios to me and gets them to you if you want to be matched up with a student. And you know, they were saying that to be able to come in and sponsor the bottom 10%, or the 10% that would drop out if they didn't have school fees, which is 28 students roughly, is just unheard of for people to go in and be able to take care of that many students at one time. So that's one of the cool things of being matched up with a student.
And you said you're helping the bottom? Like usually they help the top students and what you're doing is
No,
helping?
they just come in and pick students that they want sponsored. Whereas we're actually targeting the kids that would drop out. We go to the headmaster or the, you know, what we call superintendent here, principal, and the teachers, and see who would drop out if they didn't have their fees paid for, because they have a connection with the students. They know who's, you know, in financial need, so they're able to tell us what students need the help. But if there's no more questions, we'll get to the raffle and get you guys some cool art I brought back with me. So, I think first, some of you stopped by the table before, so you know what we have. What we have is a necklace that is really cool because the seeds, they use seeds, and they actually have to like puncture a hole through the seed. They're very fragile, and run a string through it. So it's, you know, don't be afraid to wear it. I mean, it's not that fragile. And then we have a painting that was hand painted, and I met the artist that did it, and really nice guy. And then we have some monkeys that were hand carved, little baboons. And the meaning behind them is see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. So that's why one of them's covering their eyes, one of them covering their ears, one of them's covering their mouth. And I think we'll do the necklace first, and we'll see who gets the necklace. Number 6.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Like I said, don't be afraid to wear it.
All right.
Number 10. We're the monkeys. Save the painting for last. They like meet the monkeys.
Thank you.
Last, the painting. Not looking. Number 7. So that's all I have. Thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate it. And like I said, like me on Facebook, and if you want to become a part, shoot me an email. And thank you.